So the one thing that I've been talking about a lot, and I mean a lot, whether that be radio and television, and most definitely here in the chat room, because we've been talking about this for weeks here in the Simpler Futures chat, and that is the energy's seasonal cycle that on heating oil and unleaded gas hit an oversold low, in other words support, and then triggered along. And then today we had a very, very nice rip higher. And in an effort to find ways to help clarify whether or not we think that there are opportunities at more aggressive levels, or if the market is accelerating, we've been using my propulsion dots. And these are the way in which two EMAs interact. One short EMA, one long. Now the settings you use are completely up to you, but the settings that I use are based on the 8 and 13 or 8 and 21. Those are the two default settings, call it high and low gear, for the Simpler Trading Propulsion tool. Now what's really important is to be able to see them, and to also be able to understand when the 13 EMA is a viable pullback buy and when the 21 EMA is a viable pullback buy. And by doing two things, the propulsion dots. One, and I'm on the TradeStation platform, and all I've done is I've activated a second propulsion indicator. We have the original at 821, and we have the 813. So they're both running. I'm not toggling between the two. I have both on right now. And I will say that it can get kind of crowded on the chart, no doubt about that. So if you'd like, you can try to make these as small as you're comfortable making them with the style. There's a number of ways you can do that. Just make them as small as you're comfortable making them, and making sure that they're still visible to you. Now, what oftentimes happens with the dots, and that might happen here as well, but what happens with the dots sometimes is the candle will come down and close on top of the dot, and then you can't see the dot and you can't tell that the propulsion is still on. So this is a really easy way to do it. So we have an 8 and 13 propulsion, so 8 EMA, 13 EMA interaction, that's the upper level through here. And then you have the 8 and 21 propulsion here. That's what the larger. So the trick is this: when do I know that I could consider an 8 EMA? And this is 13 EMA. Now this here, these smaller crosses, plus signs, that's where the 13 would be plotting. This is where the 13 would be plotting. The 21 would be the larger crosses. This is where the 21 EMA would be plotting. But rather than have those two EMAs always on and not quite sure when to use them, not quite sure when not, you use the propulsion instead. So the 8-13 combination or the 8-21 is always active, but only when we can consider the 13 EMA as an entry will those smaller crosses plot, and only when we should consider the 21 EM entry will those larger crosses plot. And the same thing would be for a downtrend. So this is still a trending tool. At the end of the day, it's still a trending tool. The propulsion dots or crosses, however you want to use them, they are only valid when they're already plotting within an existing sea of green or sea of red. In other words, when I get those green crosses, there better already be a number of green grab candles plotting. Otherwise, propulsion in and of itself is not as powerful as the green grab candles preceding than those propulsion crosses plotting, and then that organization that we're utilizing. So here's a really good trick there, and it's an effective way to decide when to get aggressive on pullbacks within the context of trends, and that is to activate two propulsion indicators, one at 8:13, one at 8:21. Try it. Let me know what you think about it. I think you're going to really like the way that it's going to clue you into when the 13 and 21 EMAs should be in play.